Folks, Kevyn Adams was the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres from his installment on June 16th, 2020 up until his dismissal on December 15th, 2025. Over the course of those 5.5 years, a lot of things occurred within the Buffalo Sabres organization, a lot of which you could put the blame on Kevyn Adams. And I say blame because over those 5.5 years, the Sabres made the playoffs 0 times. They only got close once. In the rest of those seasons, they finished well below 20th in overall league standings. How much does that fall on Adams? What did he do? What didn't he do? I will go through all of those decisions just in a moment. But before I do that, I want to put out a big old disclaimer that this video will not be interested in launching personal attacks against Kevyn Adams. All criticisms made here in this video or praise will be on a strictly professional standard. It is not helpful to call Kevyn Adams names. He came back to his hometown with his family. He is a human, which means there is an inherent human element to being a general manager, a very front-facing public position. So I want all of us, and myself to a certain degree, to keep that in mind when we analyze how Adams did. Now, let's start off with why Adams was hired. So it is 2020. The COVID pandemic is in full swing. The NHL season has been paused, and very publicly, Sabres co-owner Kim Pegula gives a vote of confidence, very public one, for Kevyn Adams' predecessor, Jason Botterill. But 3 weeks later, the Pegulas, in a very shocking and surprising move, decide to fire Botterill and replace him with Kevyn Adams. And simply put, Adams had no prior hockey experience. He had never scouted. He had never run a hockey operations department. His inexperience made NHL folks jealous, and it led to questions from the Sabres fan base as to how in any way possible was Kevyn Adams qualified for the job. By answering that question, we have to first answer why Kevyn Adams got that job. So Matthew Fairburn of The Athletic wrote a magnificent piece revealing many answers on Adams' rise, and I'll be brief with the backstory, but y'all should definitely go read Matthew's original article. Link to that is in the description box below. Here's the quick version. Adams was hired in 2013 to work as the director of the Hockey Academy for the Buffalo Sabres. Under this role, he fine-tuned the Harbor Center's business plan. Recall that the Harbor Center was created and built up during this time period. And it was during this time, as director, where Adams built up his relationship with both Kim and Terry Pegula, spending time in their offices. And this relationship, created inside the toxic mess that was Pegula Sports and Entertainment, led to Adams eventually being groomed for a future leadership role within the Pegula Sabres. After 6 years at the Harbor Center and the Academy of Hockey, Adams was promoted to the Sabres Vice President of Business Administration in September of 2019, and only 9 months later, he was promoted to the General Manager. But the why is that Tim and Kerry Pegula trusted him, and another bigger reason for the Pegulas hiring Adams for this very big position was given in Kevyn Adams' introductory press conference.
We felt like we weren't being heard. You know, we have a vision, and we want to see our vision succeed.
But now that Kevyn Adams was the general manager, let's look to his early days. And one of his first moves was to fire a whole bunch of people. This included scouts, longtime coaches, Rochester staff as well. This shook up his hockey operations department, and it left Adams with a bare-bones department. And for someone that had no previous experience running such a thing, Adams was now tasked with building it up. And unfortunately for Adams, this department would remain very lean for the next few seasons. Now let's fast forward 5 months here. The Sabres are entering their first free agency with Kevyn Adams as their sole supreme leader. That's not necessarily true, sole supreme. Terry Pegula was in on these discussions as well. But the Sabres entered their first free agency under Adams and decided we're going to go big. We're going to try to save this current core that Adams inherited. This core featured the guys like Eichel, Reinhart, Ristolainen, Linus Omar. And Kevyn Adams decided he was going to go big, and he signed Taylor Hall, 2018 Hart Trophy winner of the New Jersey Devils, to a 1-year, $8 million deal in an absolutely shocking move. Kevyn and Terry, as we now know from a Sabres Embedded video, felt this about the Taylor Hall signing.
We signed this guy. We're not only trying to make the playoffs,
Well,
we're trying to win the cup.
Yeah, I mean, this is, yeah.
Hall scored 2 goals and 19 points in 37 games and was traded at the deadline to the Boston Bruins. Linus Ullmark was also shipped out as well. The core was beginning to break up. And it was also during this COVID 2020-21 season where the Sabres suffered an 18-game losing streak, during which Ralph Krueger, the previous coach that Adams inherited, was fired, and he was replaced by his assistant coach, Don Granato. The Sabres slightly improved under Granato, but overall the Sabres finished last and would go into the following offseason picking first overall. But there is a lot of things that happened this offseason that I want to quickly summarize. See, Adams decided, and he made a couple of weird decisions not to trade Sabres core pieces when he had the chance at the deadline. I'm talking about Sam Reinhart. He eventually did trade Reinhart, just not for the price he should have. Reinhart, he was sick of losing in Buffalo, decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to request a trade. He did, and he got his wish, being sent to the Florida Panthers for a first-round pick and Devin Levi, at first later turning into Yuri Kulik. At the time, the Sabres thought they got a good haul for Sam Reinhart, but as we would see in the seasons to come, Reinhart would lead the Florida Panthers to playoff relevance and even help win that team the cup, not once, but twice. In fact, in 2024, Sam Reinhart scored the game-winning goal in Game 7 of the finals.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Another big trade that Adams made this offseason was deciding to get rid of the Sabres franchise player and captain, Jack Eichel. See, Jack Eichel had been injured since the middle point of that previous disastrous season, and it became clear that he was potentially going to need surgery on his neck. Now, Jack Eichel wanted an experimental but preferential neck surgery, whereas the Sabres didn't want him to have surgery at all, out of fear that he would be never the same player. Well, these differences eventually turned into Eichel requesting a trade.
I was just going to stay true to what I believed in.
Did you understand Buffalo's opinion?
I'm not going to get into that. We'll just quick.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, another time. Unfortunately,
And again, like Reinhart, he would get his wish granted, being sent to the Vegas Golden Knights in exchange for a third-round pick, Alex Tuch, and Peyton Krebs. And also, like Reinhart, Jack Eichel would eventually go on to win the Stanley Cup in Vegas. And unfortunately, these two experiences definitely shaped how Kevyn Adams would go moving forward, how he would operate his front office. He was afraid to make a mistake like letting two Stanley Cup winners walk out the door. With the old core gone, Adams and his front office, the few guys that were in it to begin with, decided, hey, you know what, we are going to embark on a new path for this team. We don't know where it's going to take us. We have no plan for how we want to construct it, but we want to build the youngest roster in the NHL. And they gave a lot of guys in the following season opportunities. I'm thinking of Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, Victor Olofsson, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Samuelsson, and Alex Tuch finally got a top 6 role. And all of this led to expected but somewhat surprising growth. I say surprising in that a few veterans, most notably Kyle Poso and Jeff Skinner, each had a resurgence of sorts under Don Granato. Speaking of Granato, he instilled in his team a very fun, offensive, free-flowing style of hockey. Unfortunately, that didn't translate into a strong defensive team, but they did score a lot of goals. Now, the season was notable for another important moment, which was the RJ retirement ceremony. This event felt sort of like a vibe change for the organization, honoring one of the greatest people to have ever worked for the Sabres, arena finally being fully attended and sold out. This felt like a turning point, with a team on the rise, only 7 games below 500, and a vibe switch. Maybe this organization was on the right path after all. With that all behind us, let's move into the 2022-23 season for the Buffalo Sabres. Kevyn Adams decided, hey, I'm going to let my team continue to grow at the NHL level, so he only made a few minimal changes. Most notably, Eric Comrie was brought in. So the Sabres went into the 2022-23 season with virtually the same roster. And let's see how it went.
Standing well out, shoots it in, Tuch gets to it first, drops it back, scores! Snap! Back the other way comes Dahlin. He'll drop it back. Krebs across, scores! As visions of a second point are on their sticks. Here's a lead pass. Knocked out in front of him, scores! He's got room. Cuts to the middle. Good stick by Lyubushkin. No penalty on the play, and a break here for Lyubushkin. Ilya Lyubushkin looking for his first as the Sabres scores! Are you kidding me?
The Sabres finished 1 point out of the playoffs. They finished with a plus 500 record for the first time since the 2010-11 season. They had breakout years from the guys like Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, Owen Power, a first-round pick from the previous offseason, Zemgus Girgensons, Kyle Poso, Tyson Jost, each had great years. Casey Middlestad had 59 points. Yes, Casey Middlestad of all guys. And the Sabres were the most entertaining team in hockey. The place was getting sold out, and the place, I mean the KeyBank Center. Fans were excited and passionate about hockey again. And their unexpected playoff push towards the end of the year installed new hope with a franchise that had seen, at that point, almost 13 years of a playoff drought. But moving past this year, it was so important for Kevyn Adams to build off of what was a great roster that had a lot of room to grow. With that in mind, let's look at this pivotal offseason and see what Kevyn Adams did. Well, he sent Casey Middlestad to Bowen Byram. Anything else? Who else was there? Connor Clifton on a 3-year, $3.33 million. Oh, crap. Looks like Kevyn Adams and the front office are banking on internal growth from this team. Let's see how that goes. Turns out internal growth is not enough to get your team back to the playoffs. Neither is hope. They fired Don Granato at the end of that season. His extension, which had been signed before this previous year, hadn't even kicked in yet. So the Sabres and Terry Pegula would yet again be paying for another coach not to actually coach them. The team regressed offensively. They got better defensively, mainly because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen decided to have his own breakout year post-January 1st. But overall, this roster regressed in every single way imaginable. So with a scapegoat, Granato gone, Adams needed a new coach to come in and fix up this team and make them a win-now team. There are a few names in the mix. I'm thinking of Craig Berube, Dallas Eakins, Bruce Boudreau, Gerard Gallant, but there was always a clear number one front-runner for Adams and Pegula, and that was longtime Sabres coach Lindy Ruff. Yes, Lindy Ruff was going to get hired and brought back and hopefully lead this team to the postseason. Now, Lindy would only be the new thing behind the bench. All of Don Granato's assistants would remain. Lindy did not get to pick out his own team and really instill his own vision, but that's fine. I'm sure we can get past that. Now that we have the coaching search done, what about any personnel changes? Oh, no, he did. He traded a second-round pick for a fourth-line grinder and Beck Malenstein. Okay, I guess that's something. What else? What else, Kevin? Oh, you actually traded a developmental prospect in Matt Savoy for a real NHL commodity and third-line center Ryan McLeod. He kind of looks like Martin Erat. Oh, no. Kevyn Adams also got depth defenseman Dennis Gilbert. He's from Buffalo. Good vibes. Sam Lafferty? No. Oh, all right. Jason Zucker? Better. James Reimer? Oh. This next season is going to be better, right? Now that we have Lindy Ruff and nostalgia, right, Kevin? Things are going to get better? No, things did not get better the following season. The Sabres regressed again, going 36, 39, and 7. They were below 500 once more. They missed the postseason again. The Sabres, even at one point in December and November, had suffered from a 13-game winless streak. The second time the Sabres suffered a double-digit winless streak under Kevyn Adams. And it was during this losing streak that we got a couple of notable drought moments. Let's look at Kevyn Adams explaining why, to the media, the Sabres were unable to bring in outside help in terms of free agency and trades.
We don't have palm trees. We have taxes in New York. Those are real. And those are things you deal with.
Damn it, Kevin. 2 straight off seasons of doing nothing in free agency or really the draft made fans absolutely furious. But it's okay, though. The fans may not believe in Adams and this team, but Terry Pegula does. Apparently, he flew up to Montreal, spoke to the team in the locker room, and this was during the 13-game losing streak, and he gave them, the team, his vote of confidence. He said that the answer is in this room and that they can turn this around. You know how the Sabres responded? By losing 6-1 to Montreal. I am not kidding. The team struggled on the road. They struggled to score goals. They struggled to be a hockey team in general. And Kevyn Adams, after this year, faced even more pressure, and a lot of people were just calling for his outright dismissal. They viewed him as having failed to grow on this team, having failed to produce a playoff team after coming so very close in 22-23. It was the offseason. It was the year of 2025, and Adams was still within the Sabres organization for some reason. The only front office change, for that matter, was bringing in former Columbus Blue Jackets GM Jarmo Kekalainen as a senior advisor. That won't be important. And other than that, the Sabres didn't make any meaningful changes in the front office, much to the displeasure of the Sabres fan base. Now, there are rumors coming from across the NHL regarding Adams' reputation. Some said he was gun-shy. That was his quality that led to the Sabres doing nothing for offseason after offseason. Others were saying that they didn't respect him for how he got the job, how he wasn't experienced, how he didn't go through the typical grind that many executives need to go through in order to get a position like the one he had. Kevyn Adams was being affronted on all angles: his reputation, his body of work, the results from the ice, from the team. All of this, in most organizations, would be enough for an owner to say, you know what, I'm going to pull the plug. But no, Terry Pegula kept Kevyn Adams around for one more offseason, and Kevyn Adams, knowing his job was on the line, decided, you know what? Bruh. So here's a backup goalie in Alex Lyon for you. Here's another depth defenseman in Connor Timmins. He only made one decent move, which was to trade away disgruntled forward J.J. Peterka to the Utah Mammoth in exchange for Josh Doan, son of Shane Doan, and Michael Kesselring. Josh Doan has looked fantastic, by the way, ever since he got into a Sabres uniform. But again, other than that, and the 2025-26 season started off much like the last few, uninspiring and with the team in a mediocre hamster wheel. The Sabres can never get out of second gear, probably because they never had the tools to get out of the second gear. And by now, people were just so over Kevyn Adams that when he was eventually dismissed on December 15th, 2025, it came as a relief and a non-shocker to almost anyone who was following this situation. Now, a big part of this 2025 year, and a large reason why he got fired in the immediate term, was because Kevyn Adams had a tendency across his few years as general manager to keep 3 goalies on the roster. And in the 25-26 year, he kept on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who at this point had regressed significantly from his peak performance a few years ago, Alex Lyon, the free agent pickup, and waiver wire claim Colton Ellis. See, Kevyn Adams had a tendency with his goalies not to make a decision. He got too attached to his dumpster fire pickups, and he would sit on his hands. He wouldn't do anything. He would clog up another roster spot, and he would defeat his vision of allowing his young players to make it to the NHL. So many times where Isak Rosén or Noah Ostlund sent up and down because the Sabres had to play the numbers game. And Lindy Ruff eventually came out and said,
I think we all know it's something that's not comfortable.
If we turn the clocks back a few seasons ago, when the Sabres finished a point out of the playoffs, the Sabres had 4 goalies on the roster: Devin Levi, Eric Comrie, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and veteran Craig Anderson. Now, most teams don't have more than 2 goalies in a tandem. Why? Because it disrupts their rhythm and flow. Say you have a bad game as a Sabres goalie. If you have a bad game, you won't see the ice for maybe another month. That is no way to manage a roster, yet Kevyn Adams continued to do that. And this inability to be an effective and cutthroat roster cutter was a big reason as to why Adams was eventually dismissed. He was an ineffective leader who got the Sabres to a point of mediocrity, which is certainly better than when he found it, where the Sabres were losing 18 games in a row in the bottom of the standings. Now the Sabres are 3rd, 4th off the bottom, but they're still not where they need to be in a playoff spot. And when Adams was fired and replaced by that senior advisor, Jarmo Kekalainen, Terry Pegula said in a statement that the organization just wasn't at the point where they needed to be. And a large part of this comes down to Kevyn Adams and his inability to take risks and to stick his neck out. See, after the Reinhart-Nyquist trades, Adams became reactionary. He became tepid. Instead of learning from those situations early on, Kevyn Adams became tepid, scared of making a mistake. By adopting a risk-averse approach, Kevyn ended up making the very same mistakes he wished to avoid. He never learned, and in the end, it costed him the job he always wanted, and it sent this Sabres franchise already deep into a playoff drought further into limbo. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I was Don. This is Buffalo Sports Center.